But for you who revere my name, the Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in its wings, and you'll go out and leap like cows released from the stall. So what is he telling? What is he telling the righteous here? He's telling something to the righteous. What is he saying to them? The righteous will arise, and when God comes in his judgment, how are they going to react in his judgment? Are they going to be terrified?
Joyful.
Are they going to be fearful?
Joyful.
They're going to be joyful in that. Those who fear the Lord, they have nothing to fear from God's judgment. The wicked will fall, but they will rise and they will stand tall. One of my favorite verses concerning judgment is Hebrews chapter 12. Turn to Hebrews 12. Starting verse 25. Hebrews 12:25. Hebrew writer here says, see to it that you do not refuse him who speaks. If they did not escape when they refused him who warned them on earth, how much less will we if we turn away from him who warns us from heaven? At that time the voice shook the earth, but now he has promised once more, I'll shake not only the earth, but also the heavens. The words once more indicate the removal of what can be shaken, that is, created things, so that what cannot be shaken may remain. Therefore, since we're receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, let us be thankful and so worship God, acceptable with reverence and awe for our Lord, for our God is a consuming fire. On the day of God's judgment, it says he's going to shake this universe. And when he shakes it, it's all going to fly away, except for one thing. There's one thing in this universe that will continue to exist, continue to stand. Anybody catch what it was? Well, it's Jesus who's doing the shaking. What's going to be left when he gets through shaking this universe? That we're receiving what that cannot be shaken? A kingdom. What's the kingdom? It's the church. The church will be the only thing left. All the evil we see around us will be gone. It'll just be Christians left. That's it. We need to take comfort in that. Back to Malachi 4. Verse 3. It says, then you will trample down the wicked. There will be ashes under the soles of your feet on the day when I do these things, says the Lord Almighty. So what will the wicked be like on that day when God comes? It's going to be like ashes under your feet. Nothing left of it. Okay? Psalm 47, 2-3 says, how awesome is the Lord Most High, the great King over all the earth. He subdues nations under us, people under our feet. God knows how to protect his people, and God knows how to deal with the wicked. We should not doubt that. Verse 4. Remember the law of my servant Moses, the decrees and laws I gave him at Horeb for all Israel. Malachi finally is given a final admonition to the Jews. This is the last admonition the Jews are going to get before Jesus. Did you realize that? Verses 4-6 are the last three verses. The last three words the Jews are going to hear for the next 400 years. Okay? And he's finally giving them an admonition. What's his admonition? Remember the law of my servant Moses, the decrees and laws I gave him at Horeb for all Israel. What is he telling them they need to do? Remember the law of Moses. Remember my law. Remember where it came from. It came from me, God said. They need to remember God's law because it's holy. They need to revere it. They need to obey it. Those are some of the last words they're going to hear from God before the coming of the Messiah. Verse 5 says, see, I will send you the prophet Elijah before that great and dreadful day of the Lord comes. He will turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, or else I will come and strike the land with a curse. We have the final prophecy in the Old Testament right here, the last one. He promised that the prophet Elijah will come before that dreadful day of judgment. Wait a minute. I thought Jesus was coming to bring salvation. You know, Jesus only brought salvation for those who believed in him. He brought judgment for those who rejected him. Did you realize that? But we need to be glad. We should be glad, okay, that he's coming before that dreadful day. What happens if he doesn't come? That dreadful day comes and there's nothing left for us. Just the dreadful day, okay? Because see, the Messiah has to come before judgment, or there's no hope for anybody. So this Elijah is coming. Who is this Elijah? You know, the Jews were looking for Elijah. Did you realize that? In the New Testament, if you read the New Testament, that they're looking for Elijah. In Matthew chapter 16, remember that's where Jesus asked the disciples, who the people thought he was? You know, one of them mentioned that maybe he's Elijah. Because they're expecting Elijah to come. And they wanted to know if Jesus was this Elijah. Is Jesus was on the cross. Okay, he's hanging from the cross. And he's saying, Father, forgive me. Okay? He's saying, I'm thirsty. Well, you know a question that was asked? Let's see if Elijah will come and take him down. Look in Mark chapter 15, 35 through 36. Mark 15, 35 and 36. When some of those standing near heard this, they said, listen, he's calling Elijah. One man ran, filled a sponge with wine vinegar, put it on a stick, and offered it to Jesus to drink. Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to take him down. See, they're still waiting. Here the Messiah is hanging on the cross. They're still looking for Elijah. They asked John the Baptist if he was Elijah. Remember what he said? Look in John chapter 1, verse 21. They asked him, who are you then? Are you Elijah? He said, I am not. Are you the prophet? He answered, no. By the way, the prophet they're talking about is the prophet that Moses said would come that would be like him. Talking about the Messiah. But they point blank asked John the Baptist, are you Elijah? And John said, no, I'm not. I'm not Elijah. I know some of you are thinking right now, I thought John the Baptist was Elijah that was. In fact, I heard somebody a while ago when I asked who it was, somebody I heard in the audience said, John the Baptist. Here's why John said no here. The Jews were looking, okay, they were looking for a literal Elijah. They were looking for the man Elijah to be resurrected and reappear. That's what they were looking for. But John was not the literal man Elijah. He was not the resurrected Elijah. And that's what John meant when he said, no, I'm not. Because he knew that's who they were looking for. Okay? But here's the thing. John the Baptist had the spirit of Elijah. And that's what Malachi meant. In verse 5, when he says, I will send the prophet Elijah before that great and dreadful day of the Lord. He's sending someone with the spirit of Elijah. Look at Luke chapter 1, verse 16 and 17. The angel came to Zechariah, who is John the Baptist's father, to announce that, his wife Elizabeth was very old. She was past the age of bearing children. And the angel came and said, your wife is going to have a son. And he laughed. And you know what the angel did to him? Struck him dead. Not dead. Mute. Until John was born. Okay? But look what the angel says to him. Zechariah said, many of the people of Israel will bring back to the Lord their God. Will bring back to the Lord their God. And he will go on before the Lord in the spirit and power of who? Elijah, to turn the hearts of the father to the children and the disobedience to the wisdom of the righteous, to make ready a people prepared for the Lord. And then Jesus talks about John the Baptist and Elijah in Matthew 7, verses 10 through 13. It says in Matthew 7, verse 10. The disciples asked him, why then do the teachers of the law say that Elijah must come first? Why must he come before the Messiah? Jesus replied, to be sure, Elijah comes and will restore all things. But I tell you, Elijah has already come. And they did not recognize him, but has gone out to do everything they wish. In the same way, the Son of Man is going to suffer in their hands. Then the disciples understood that he was talking to them about John the Baptist. So here Jesus confirms that John the Baptist was this Elijah that Malachi was talking about. And then finally in verse 6 of Malachi 4, let's read it one last time. He tells us what the mission and purpose is of John the Baptist. He will turn the hearts of the fathers to their children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, or else I will come and strike the land with a curse. He was going to be the forerunner of the Messiah. And his job was to prepare the way of the Messiah by turning the heart of the people back to God. That was John the Baptist's purpose for being here. I said this before. He's like the advance party that goes before the king or the president before they travel to get everything ready. Well, that's what John the Baptist is doing. And see, that's what the angel said to Zechariah there in verses Luke chapter 1 that we read. He said to make ready a people prepared for the Lord. That's why he came. But there is a warning at the very end of Malachi. Or else I will come. Who's going to come? No, I. Who's speaking here? God is speaking here. I will come and strike the land with a curse. If they didn't turn back, they didn't turn their hearts to God, God said, I'm going to come and I'm going to bring a curse with me here. John turned some of the Jews back to God, did he not? But he didn't turn all of them back to God, did he? In fact, the majority of them did not turn back to God. And many did not believe in Jesus when he came. And here's the thing. For those who didn't believe, Jesus did not bring salvation. Jesus said, I did not come to condemn the world, but to save it. But here's the thing. He came to bring people to God. And those that refused him, they brought the curse down upon them. And that curse was carried out. Did you realize that? The Jewish nation in Israel today is not the Jewish nation of the Bible. Not by a long shot. Their nation, that nation, in 70 AD when the Romans conquered Jerusalem and ripped the temple down, the Jewish religion ended that day. They've not been able to perform any of the necessary sacrifices since that day. God brought his curse. There are people today that'll try to tell you that God has two streams of salvation. He has the church and Christians, and he still has the Jews over here. He's saving the Jews too. That's not biblical, guys. That's fantasy, is what they're doing. God has one stream of salvation, and it's through Jesus and his church, not through Judaism. Well, guess what? This is a milestone for me. I've been wanting to do this on Minor Prophets for a long time. And we have finished going through the Minor Prophets. And like I said, next week we're going to start the book of Romans. I did Romans a long time ago. I don't think I've done it here, but I did it a long time ago in New Jersey. And I've been wanting to redo it because I've been studying it and learning a lot more about it. And so I'm looking forward to that too. So we'll start Romans next week. Any questions? Thank you. We are done for today. Well, we're done for the class.
You can't go home and take a nap.
I can't go take a nap yet. Okay.
You know they had hit my she's so issue yesterday. I got out of the way. Get on the freeway. Yeah. For this fellowship again. What's you been really pretty good? Have you talked to Marika? She's not in there. Oh, she